Ms. Legalista, aka Attorney Sheila here, bringing you another video about this relaxer lawsuits. Now, it's being reported that there are 8,000 complaints that have been filed. I have actually already completed 3 videos on this. The very first one was in December of 2022, almost a year ago. And that video is over an hour and a half long. Then this month, I did one where we went to a website and we actually looked at people who had fibroids and uterine cancer, and we listened to what they were saying happened to them, and they had relaxers in their hair. And then my most recent one, which was in the last week, I also recently put up a video with the short form complaint. This has been provided by the court. You can go online and download it. As a matter of fact, let me take you to that site. Here we have U.S. District Court, Northern District of Illinois. This is the website that you can go to so that you can actually get a copy of this short form complaint. If you scroll down, here it says forms, you click on that, and then you click on the short form complaint, and it will pop up. Eventually, it will pop up. You will have it there to look at. There you go. So that is the short form complaint. What I'm going to be doing in this particular video is taking you through a complaint that a person filled out in Iowa, and we're going to see how they filled that complaint out. As you can see here, it is the short form complaint and jury demand. You see it's set up exactly the same way. And I'm just going to go through this from beginning to end so that we can talk about how this was filled out in this case. But she filled out her name in the part where it says plaintiff, this complaint pursuant to case management order number 2. All of this is part of the template. And then you can see these areas where she filled it out. Southern District of New York. Why? Well, I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Plaintiff currently resides in. She filled in where she currently resides. Plaintiff purchased and used defendant's products in. And typically what happens for most people is you most of the time still maybe live in the place where you were purchasing the products. If not, then you might have a different city and state. It could be that you have moved since the time you were purchasing and using the product. In this case, it doesn't look like this plaintiff did. It looks like this plaintiff purchased the products in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and the plaintiff still currently resides in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then she checked the original venue is a judicial district in which a substantial part of the events or omissions giving rise to the claim occurred. And she says at least 2 of the defendants' principal place of business is in New York. Now, in a minute, I'm going to scroll through the chart and you'll see that the places for the defendants are listed in this chart. For purposes of diversity jurisdiction, plaintiff is a citizen of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So that gets us through number 1, number 2, where she names herself, the district court. And then, like it says, plaintiff makes this selection based on one or more of the following factors in order to choose venue. And so she's filled in the ones that are appropriate to her. And then we get down to 4. Plaintiff is suing the following defendants. Now, these would be all of the parties whose products you use. So as you can see here, one of the first ones that she checks off is Beauty Bell Enterprises, LLC, formerly known as, and that's your FKA, House of Cheatham, Inc. And then she has House of Cheatham, LLC. And you can see here, the principal place of business was Georgia, Delaware, Georgia. And then she's also got some others here, Revlon, Strength of Nature. And you can see where the principal place of business is for some of these. It's listed right in this chart. And so you can also see that she used multiple products by different companies here. And then we get down to number 5. Upon information and belief, plaintiff began using hair relaxer products on or about the following date, January 1st, 1984. And if applicable, stopped using hair relaxer products on or about the following date, September 1st, 2016. Think about how long that is. And I've talked about this in previous videos. The length of time that most women started using the length of time that they use products because they started so young. And this was not very far off from when I started. Mine probably started, I guess, 1985, 1986, and then ended, I stopped and started a couple of times. But these dates, I think historically, if you go back and look at people who started really early, now they've sort of gotten to the point where at some point in time they stopped and a lot of people started going natural. I think you could probably see that sort of trend with some people. If you look at what's being reported in the media, they do talk about the decrease in number of African American women who are using relaxer or relaxer related products. So then number 6, so she has her numbers in here, and here's the thing, there may be some people out there who say, "Well, how do you know, when exactly?" It says on or about, okay? So you're giving your best estimate here. But I will say this, for a lot of people, they kind of remember about the time, not if they're really, really young, but if they're older, because a lot of us had our hair pressed for a long time. And so we didn't use relaxers until we were older. It was this really big deal to have your first relaxer. And so a lot of people do remember when they finally switched over from getting their hair pressed to having a relaxer and needing to get it retouched every 5 or 6 weeks. And then people usually remember about the time they stopped. Therefore, even though some people might question some of these dates, it's usually tied to a momentous event in people's lives. I remember when I started relaxing my hair. So, yeah, it was a long time ago, but I can tell you about what the years were. Upon information belief, plaintiff used the following hair relaxer products, which plaintiff contends caused and or contributed to their injuries, and brings claims against the following defendants. Now you can see the actual defendant and the product list, the products that were actually used. You see all of the ones listed here. And then again, she goes to Beauty Bell. So apparently she was using Originals by Africa's Best Originals. You can see the ones that she has checked off. Here's another thing to point out too. To what extent have men been impacted by this? A lot of what we are seeing in the news has been really closely tied to this sort of correlation. I don't know that causation has been proven yet, so I'm going to say correlation between women's use of these products and increases in uterine cancer and uterine fibroid and endometriosis and those sorts of things. We also have men's products listed, at least one listed here, and then another down here too. Yet I haven't heard a whole lot about that. So you see her checking off her House of Cheatham and scroll down and you don't see many more of those. And then you see some African Pride products from Revlon. Those are the ones that she's checked off here. Notice the no lie relaxer and the no base and the multi-length texturizer, the Dream Kids. And then also she used products by Strength of Nature. Again, some African Pride products here. African Pride Touch Up, relaxers, elongating system, Just for Me products listed here, texture softener system, multiple products. And then here you've even got TCB Naturals. Because think about, again, the length of time here. Some women, I did not use a whole lot of different products. I maybe used 2 or so. I just only remember a couple, mostly it being Dark and Lovely. Like Dark and Lovely was my go-to relaxer, one of my main one, I would say primarily. She also used TCB Naturals conditioning. If you used any of these, let me know in the comments. Okay, so now let's see what injuries she has said she sustained as a result of this. Endometrial cancer, and then it says plaintiff underwent surgery and chemotherapy. Now, one of the things that I've talked about here is this sort of it says other injuries and or additional details. Please specify. And I know she has this here, but here's one of the things that I keep saying about this, and that is that you have to advocate for yourself here. You need to be putting in as many additional details as possible. So, for instance, when was the surgery? How long was the chemotherapy? Your experience may be entirely different from someone else's experience. And I think that it is helpful for people to provide as much information as possible so that as these cases are being considered, that people really know what happened to women. And this is probably a case I'm going to follow in a whole lot of detail. People are probably going to get tired of hearing me talk about where this particular case is going to go. I'm going to spend a lot of time digging into some of these. So here she has some additional information, approximate dates of diagnosis, injuries, if applicable at this time, that form the basis of plaintiff's claim. Okay, so here's where she was approximately diagnosed on or around September 1st, 2016. So again, so here are the things that she has used to sum up her complaint. Now, again, I'm not criticizing her. I'm putting this information out here so that we can all take a look at it and say, well, hey, how much of this information do I want to include? How specific do I want to be? What I want you to think about is if there is a settlement, if you have to then later fill out a form and get compensation, or you're able to receive additional medical treatment or something like that, don't you want to have already put a lot of information in here in your complaint so that it's documented from the very beginning, as many details as possible? So I always think with the end in mind. What are you looking to share? What kind of compensation, and not just monetary, but what kind of compensation might you need? And I mention this because this person says chemotherapy. A lot of times with chemotherapy, there is a lot of hair loss. For some people, it may result in them having to purchase wigs or do something else. And so that sort of compensation should be included also, because but for you taking the product and being exposed to the chemical, you wouldn't have gotten this endometrial cancer. You would not have needed the chemotherapy. You would not have experienced the hair loss, and you would not be in this position where you're continually having to buy wigs or do other things. So think it through in terms of the full impact that this may have had on you. And again, not necessarily criticizing this person, but just reminding you of what you may want to include if you're considering filling one of these out. You can be as detailed or not as you would like to be. It's entirely up to you. Then we have the causes of action. So here's the piece where it gets into all of the legal information that normally, if you had an attorney, the attorney would be drafting these causes of action and these theories of recovery, saying, hey, they were negligent. Hey, they misrepresented what was in the product, and they misrepresented the fact that these were safe products that we could use. There was a design defect, and there was a failure to warn. They knew that these chemicals were in here and that they were possibly dangerous, and they failed to warn us. So that's typically what an attorney would put in the lawsuit. In this case, you have this template, whoops, and it's already in the lawsuit. And so now you don't have to worry about trying to put it in there or finding an attorney to draft it for you. It's already done. And so you can see there the different counts that are listed here. Count 1, negligence. Count 2, negligent representation, negligence per se. Strict liability, design defect. You've got failure to warn, breach of implied warranty of merchantability or fitness for a particular use. You've got breach of express warranty. And then we go on to the next page, and you can see there are actually 15 counts in this short form complaint that is already listed for you. Now, you can see the ones that she checked off. Let me backtrack, because some of these may or may not apply to you. She checked all of these off. And then when you get to the second page, she's still alive. So she's not going to check off wrongful death. It doesn't look like she was in a relationship, so she's not checking off loss of consortium, and then she's not putting in any additional causes of action. And so, as you can see here for number 12, where it says consortium claims, if applicable, the following individuals allege damages for loss of consortium. And you can see that if you were in a relationship and you were a person who had endometriosis or you had uterine fibroids, that having those conditions might severely impact your ability to have an intimate relationship with your partner. Then you have 13, And 13 is survival and or wrongful death claims if applicable. And in this case, she is still alive, and so it's not applicable. And then you have the jury demand. And then you have the date that she has signed it, and this is the attorney that it's going through. So so here here's your example here, and this gives you an idea of one person who's in Iowa who did fill this out using this short short form complaint template that you can use. And so I hope this has provided you with just some general information about how to fill this out. And I'll probably do a couple others to see if people are doing anything different. There are several complaints when I go onto Pacer, which is a website where I can pull up a lot of these documents and review them with you so that you can understand what's going on. There are several complaints up there. So I'll probably go through a few more, see if anybody else says anything different, and just to put a few out there so that people can understand some of the issues that are at play here. So don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to hit the notification bell because, like I said, I'm going to continue to be diving in to not just the court documents, but a lot of the facts, start to have a little bit more conversation about how we have products out there when manufacturers know that they're using these chemicals and that these chemicals may be harming other people, and that it takes them a while to take responsibility for those actions. And so we need to do a better job of letting people know and understand that all of these products out there don't necessarily mean that they're out there and safe for our use. So, like I said, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and peace.